Hi there, this is Flavia and I am so glad you're here. Today we will be creating some simple yet beautiful note cards doing the stenciling and die cutting inlay techniques, which are so much fun, and I hope you give it a try. To make today's note cards, I will be using Altenews Floral Radiance stencil set. This is a layering stencil set with 4 different stencils that will allow us to add different colors to different sections of this floral panel. Notice here that these stencils are numbered from 1 to 4, and that is to indicate the order we should follow. Also notice that each stencil has the outline of some of the flowers and or the leaves, which will make it very easy to line up each stencil with the ink blended panel. I will use my waffle flower grip mat to hold my cardstock in place as I do this technique. This grip mat is such a great tool to have, and it makes the stenciling technique easier and more fun. However, if you do not have a sticky mat like this one, you can simply tape your cardstock to your work surface to do the stenciling technique. I will only remove the protective plastic from the top of my grip mat because by keeping that plastic layer at the bottom, I will be able to easily turn this mat around if I want to as I stencil my panel. I will be using Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated ink pads, and I will have the name of each color on the screen just in case you're interested, but keep in mind that you can use any ink pads that you might already have. As I was about to begin stenciling, I spotted this golden shimmer spray that I always keep in a storage container right in front of me, and I decided to actually spray these white panels with this shimmer spray before stenciling just to see what happened. The result ended up being just gorgeous, so I highly advise you to do so if you also have a shimmer spray. Whenever I need to spray a panel, I always place it inside an old box to protect my work surface, so there is less cleaning to do when I'm done. I will spray all my panels at once and set it aside to dry for a couple of minutes before I begin stenciling. So here is a closer look at the first stenciled panel, and I love the subtle golden shimmery effect. Moving on to the second panel, This time I will be masking sections of each stencil layer to make flowers in 3 different colors just for fun. Because I didn't want to get up to get some masking sheets, I decided to just go ahead and grab some regular post-it notes that I had right in front of me to mask some of these sections, which I do not recommend unless you have those full sticky post-its where the whole back is very sticky. By using regular post-it pages that only have a sticky strip in the back, I had to keep holding these post-its down in place for the whole time, which was kind of annoying. What I actually prefer using when I am not being lazy is the Altenew masking sheets. They are great for this technique since the whole back is sticky and it has the right amount of adhesive in the back, which means it will stay in place as you do this technique, and at the same time it will not damage the cardstock when you peel it off. If you're interested in checking it out, I will make sure to list it in the description box down below. After creating my 3 panels, I will trim each one off to 4 by 5¼ inches. For the sentiment, I will be using the Altenew Outlined Love You die plate. I love the overlapping design and how large this plate is, just perfect. I decided to use a purple die cut sentiment with the panel with purple flowers, then a glitter gold die cut sentiment for the panel with flowers in different colors, and of course a pink die cut sentiment for the panel with pink flowers. As you can see on the top right corner, I did cut lots of sentiments out of white cardstock, and I did so for 2 reasons. One reason is because I like stacking up die cuts for dimension, and the other reason is so I can make it any color I want later when I am ready to use it on a note card. Just like I did for the purple die cut sentiment, I will now turn one white die cut pink by using a pink ink pad. I will place a white die cut on top of my grip mat just to protect my work surface, and I will keep on tapping the ink pad over my die cut until I have fully covered the white die cut with pink ink. Once that is done, I will go ahead and add 2 more white die cuts just for dimension, but you can definitely skip this step if you want to. Here I'm using the Bearly Art glue that I transferred to a fine tip bottle just to make it easier for me to add glue to intricate die cuts such as this sentiment. Once that is done, I will set all of my die cut sentiments aside, and then, using that same sentiment die plate, I will now cut it out of each stenciled panel so we can later do the die cutting inlay technique. I will use pieces of the Spellbinder's Best Ever Craft Tape to hold the metal plate in place as I run it through my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. I like to use the Best Ever Craft Tape because I know it will not damage my panel when I'm ready to peel it off. After die cutting a sentiment from the center of this stenciled panel, I will go ahead and adhere this panel with the negative space in the center to the front of a side folding note card that is 4¼ inches tall by 5½ inches wide. Then I will adhere that pink die cut sentiment back in the negative space and fill out all of these white spaces between the outlined sentiment with the stenciled die cut pieces that are stuck to my metal plate. Make sure to not lose any of these tiny die cut pieces so you are able to create a panel with a continuous pattern. To make this note card feel heavy, which is what I prefer, I will add 2 white panels inside this note card that measures 4 by 5¼ inches. To help me remove the die cut outlined sentiment from the metal plate, I will use a craft pick. Since this is a very intricate die cut, we must be very careful not to tear the die cut sentiment as we remove it from the metal plate. I was actually going to save these sentiments that I cut out from the stencil panels to use on future projects, but I did not resist and ended up making 3 more note cards today that I will show you in a minute. To make an envelope for today's note cards, I will be using metal plates included in the Stampandas A2 gift card holder and envelope die set. This set comes with a metal plate to make a pop-up gift card holder for the inside of your note cards, which is so much fun, but I decided not to use that today. I will only be using these 2 large plates included in the die set to cut out these 2 white pieces that I can glue together to make an A2 size pocket-shaped envelope. I will fold this large piece following the engraved lines that the metal plate created on the cardstock and reinforce each fold with a bond folder before adhering the other die-cut piece on top. Then, to make it simple to seal this envelope later, I will add a strip of double-sided adhesive to the flap of the envelope, and using a glue eraser, I will remove any excess glue that has dried on my cardstock. Altenew also has the coordinating stamp set with a mini version of that large die-cut sentiment and a few sub-sentiments. So, using my Misty stamping tool, I will stamp a sub-sentiment inside each note card using Altenew Obsidian Pigment ink, which is my favorite black ink. And before I show you the completed note cards, which is what I had planned for this video, let's go ahead and create with those gorgeous leftover die-cut sentiments. I will begin by adding a little bit of interest to the front of an A2 size note card by using the Concord N9th Stitched Hearts die plate. This plate will cover the entire front of an A2 size note card with beautiful stitched patterns, and since it does not have cutting edges like some stitching plates like these do, this plate will not cut out the cardstock at all. It will only create those beautiful stitch heart designs, adding this way just enough interest without taking too much from the focal point of the note card, which in this case will be that outlined Love You die cut. Now we can go ahead and add the die cut sentiment in the center. As usual, I will stack up a few die cut pieces to make this intricate die cut sentiment stand out more. At the last minute, I decided to stamp a sub-sentiment under the die cut Love You, and again I will use my Misty stamping tool and Altenew Obsidian Pigment ink to do so. In order to get a flawless stamped result, we must do the stamping before adding interest to the background panel with the stitching plate. However, since this is a last minute decision, I will do the stamping after, which is not perfect but good enough. And since I have my Misty out, I might as well stamp the flap of the envelopes now. The last step is to go over the die cut sentiment with Ranger Glossy accents to make it very glossy. This is also optional, but I do think it makes all the difference and it looks really nice in person. And finally, here is a closer look at all of the note cards created with Altenew stencil and die sets. I love how they turned out, and I'm pretty sure I will be using these sets a lot. Also, I am very glad that the 3 note cards that I had planned for today turned into 6, because we can never make too many Love You note cards. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I hope you felt inspired. If you're interested, I have a list of all products used in the description box down below, and if you make something inspired by this video, make sure to tag me on Instagram. I hope you have a wonderful day, take care, and see you again soon.